I'm Susan Hallam. I own a digital marketing agency based in Nottingham City Centre, and we do things like search engine optimization and pay-per-click advertising and things that you will be familiar with. We work with a number of brands, from businesses like Speedo and Rally through to Saint-Gobain and the BBC, but we have specialist expertise in areas like manufacturing, we have experience in the sciences, but also we have a lot of experience working with businesses who are involved in e-commerce and selling online. It isn't just me in the business, there's 51 of us in the company, and if you look very closely, you will spot the lovely Rosie, our office dog, in the middle of the team as well. So we're a substantial size business providing these kind of services to businesses like yours. Very briefly, in terms of me, you will, I'm sure, noticed right now, first and foremost, well, I'll tell you 4 interesting facts. Cool fact number 1. I can drive my sheep over London Bridge, and I can carry a sword in public. Do any of you guys know what I'm talking about? I am a freeman of the City of London. I'm a member of the Worshipful Company of Information Technologists. Have you noticed I'm not from London originally? And that's why they've got me invited to speak here today about the United States. By the way, I have also been deported from France, but we can talk about that another day. I'm based in Nottingham City Centre, and I don't know if you're aware that Nottingham has received a £27 million grant to refurbish Nottingham Castle. I'm a trustee of the castle, and from time to time you'll hear me on the BBC. I write for the Sunday Times, and fundamentally what I do is no-nonsense digital marketing. So what they did today is they've invited me to speak to you about the opportunities that there are in terms of exporting to the United States. You know, the land of hope, the land of opportunity and glory. And clearly, I am an American citizen. However, I am also a British national, so I'm a dual national. And we, as a company, do export our services to the United States. It's exciting to come to a show like this today because you can see the opportunities that are out there for businesses like yours. The United States is a huge market for you all. By the way, just very briefly, how many of you are marketing products, things that you want to sell stuff? Are any of you exporting services? No? Do you export stuff? Okay, stuff, technical term, stuff. So I'm going to focus today on stuff as well. But there is a great demand, and the United States is one of the UK's largest export markets. I don't think I need to be persuading you that you should be exporting to the United States or you wouldn't be here right now. So what I wanted to do is to let you give you some idea of what you could be doing as you're preparing to export to the American market. The first thing you want to think about is the scope of the opportunity that there is out there. And there are some tools that you can be using to explore these different opportunities. And the first one I want to mention to you is a free tool that you can use called Google Trends. Google Trends provides free data about how do people behave on Google. So what you could do is put in your key phrase of what it is that you're looking to sell. So in this particular example, I'm looking for wooden toys. Let's pretend we're a toy manufacturer and we're looking to export handmade wooden toys. And what I've done is I've set the search criteria to be data from the United States. What Google will first and foremost reveal to me is this lovely trend of the search volume of Americans or people in the United States searching for wooden toys. So I'm going to start to get a proxy for how big is this marketplace. By the way, can you see that it's bumping along gradually? And so it's going May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. What are we seeing in that peak on that curve? Christmas. Okay, so here's where we can see this data. I'm only showing you 1 year's worth of data. However, there is up to 5 years worth of data that you could be looking at on Google Trends. This is cool, but this isn't the good part. What we can then do, continuing our search on wooden toys, I can drill down and Google will reveal to me which states in the United States has the greatest concentration of people searching for wooden toys. So I'm sure you're all aware, in the United States being a great, massive continent of a country, for you to be penetrating any one part of the United States, you will probably need to be looking for a particular territory, which would be defined by state. And this might give you a good way to figure out that people from Washington, D.C. are looking for our toys. Portland, Oregon, New York, Seattle, Washington. So it will let you know conurbations of where people might be interested specifically in your product. If you're looking to test the market, the old-fashioned saying is fish where the fish are. And here, Google is letting you know where people are searching for the toys. What Google wants you to do, just so that you know, is that Google would then perhaps like you to advertise your wooden toys. Do you know the ads that appear in Google at the top of the search engine? It's known as pay-per-click advertising. Did you know that you can geo-target your ads so that your ads only appear to people in Washington, D.C., that the ads only appear to people in Nashville, Tennessee? So what it's doing, so on the one hand, what Google's trying to do is to sell its advertising, but for free, it is sharing its data with you. Okay, so we can see where people are on Google Trends, but then where it also gets a little bit more interesting is, is that the last one? Yeah, we can do it by city and we can do it by state. Now, moving away from Google, there's another tool that I'd like to talk to you about if you're looking to research your market in the United States. And this tool is called Sem Rush, S-E-M-R-U-S-H. It's not a free tool, but you can rent it for 1 month and to prepare yourself for your exploration and research into the American market. And what Sem Rush will do is to let you know, for the phrase wooden toys, which websites rank the best for the phrase wooden toys to users in the United States. Now, what I need to remind you, and I suspect you know this already, but it's worth repeating, is that I hope you're aware that all of the searches that you do on the Google platform are tailored to you. These results are for you. Google knows that I live in Nottingham City Centre, so Google tailors the ads to be Nottingham-based businesses and Nottingham advertising. Google knows what websites I look at, so Google will put my favorite results at the top of the search engine results. What this service allows us to do is to see what people in America are going to see when they search for wooden toys, and you won't be able to see this accurately if you're searching from your own computer. So in this particular case, I can see that there's this company called Bella Luna Toys, and if you search for the phrase wooden toys, they have a website, a page on their website called Wooden Toys. So clearly we can see them doing something called search engine optimization, and they want to rank for wooden toys. Now, drilling down a little bit more closely, here is where you're going to start to do your research in the marketplace. That what we'll now be able to see is how much traffic does the Bella Luna Toys website get. So I can see how many visitors, and on average, they had 41,000 visitors. So what you need to maybe ask yourself is your website as big as Bella Luna Toys, or are you smaller? So what chance have you got to be ranking in Google, given the fact that Bella Luna Toys is already eating up this much traffic from the Google search engine results? I'm able to see how many visitors they have, but I can also see, if you look really closely, I'm sorry, it's small, that we can see how much of their traffic is coming from the search engines, how much of their traffic is coming from social media, how much of their traffic is coming from paid advertising. And it's the red line that I want you to notice, that they're getting a lot of traffic from social media. What might you want to be thinking about with the American market in the United States? Social will probably need to form part of your mix because it is working for Bella Luna Toys. Okay, now we're really going to get clever. What Sem Rush will also reveal to me for Bella Luna Toys, that I can see what phrases on Google they're advertising their toys for. So for many of you guys, if you are looking to reach into the American market, I would have to strongly advise that you're going to need to do it through advertising on the internet rather than trying to hope to rank in the Google search results. So if you want to get visible in front of your potential clients, in the first instance, you might need to buy your way to the top. What you're going to say to me is, how much is that going to cost? So using Bella Luna Toys, I can figure out how much they're spending, and I can decide, can I afford this too? So for the phrase, for example, for the phrase wooden castles, this is quite a specific thing. They have a toy that is a wooden castle. I can see here that they currently rank in position 1. This is the bottom one on the list, guys. And beside here, I can see that the price per click that they are paying is 64 American cents. So if we put that into British pounds, that's about 40p. So the question you need to ask yourself is, on average, how much do people spend buying my toys, and how much margin can I give away advertising my toys, knowing that the cost per click for a wooden castle is going to be about 64 pence, which is what, 40 pence. So what this research tool will let me see is what phrases, A, are they bidding for? And I hope you know with Google advertising, you give Google the phrases you want to bid for. And then B, so you could identify what do you want to rank for. B, how much is the cost per click going to be? And C, what you need to think about is if I were to send 20 people to your website, all searching for wooden castle, after 20 people, let's pretend, is there any chance somebody might buy the castle from you? And that's what we need to figure out is what's called our cost per acquisition. Good. So we can see, is everybody hanging in there? I hope I've not confused you yet. So, and I will. If I haven't, I will. As we take a look at it, finally what Sem Rush will enable us to do is you can see the ads that Bella Luna Toys have written that appeal to the American market. Now, this is where we are. This is, again, if we think about exporting to the United States, I'm sure you know this already, but American English is different to British English. So this is a great way for you to see what kind of things Bella Luna Toys is talking about, whether it be natural wooden toys to inspire the imagination. So these are educational messages. Or they might be things like use code 16 for a $10 discount. They're putting discount messages. As we think also, by the way, about the difference between American English and British English, keep in mind that certain words mean something entirely different. So, for example, Americans, I know you know this, Americans do not use the word fortnight. I have no idea what you're talking about if you use a word like fortnight. If you use words like bespoke, Americans will not know what you're talking about. That is not an American word. We would use the word custom made. So this is a good opportunity for you to research the linguistic differences that exist in the American market. The one that I think is the most interesting is I used to teach at the university. We would talk about having an agenda for the meeting, and you would table the agenda. Have you ever heard that saying, you table? Do you guys know table in British English means to submit for consideration? In table in American means to ignore or put away. You're going to table that, which means you're going to deep six it. You're going to put it away. So there are these dramatic differences, and this might help you define these linguistic differences. I've mentioned Sem Rush and I've mentioned Google. The other one I want to mention to you are some other tools for you to take a look at. One that I find useful is called Google Market Finder. And if you haven't used Google Market Finder, this free tool allows you to put your website into the tool. The tool will crawl through your website and try to figure out what you're selling. It will determine the keywords for you of what Google thinks you're selling, and it will then tell you how much the cost per click is going to be in the United States, how many searches there are. So for this example, this is my website as a search engine optimization agency. And you can see here on the right, it has picked the tools, the terms, visual art and design, web design. It's saying there are 26 million terms in America for the kind of things that I sell. And on average, it's going to cost me $1.62 to buy my way to the top of those results. It's a numbers game, isn't it? This is your business plan that we're talking about. Also, another tool that I'd like to refer you to is if you're looking at international selling, we have written a blog post, an article about international search engine optimization. And if any of you want those details, we can share those with you as well. Now, there's a whole list of things. Okay, so you've decided I want to sell my wooden toys in America. There is a big market. I'm going to be selling to Washington, D.C. I know what my advertising strategy is going to look like because my castle sells for £100 a pop, and I get 50 quid profit on every castle after postage and packing. At this point, there's a series of questions you need to be thinking about that has to do with how am I going to take payment? How am I going to ship? What is my tax and legal situation going to be? How am I going to recruit? If I'm going to, we were discussing earlier, am I going to use a distributor or an agent? Google has made available to you in Market Finder a series of very useful resources to help walk you through these decisions you need to be thinking about when trading with the United States. What you might also want to take a look at is great.gov.uk, who is the sponsor of this particular pavilion that we're in today, and they have resources available to you for the United States, again, about market research and understanding your customers and getting paid and all those kind of big issues. Let's see if I can get this to go. And finally, the got.gov.uk website, just as a resource for you, if you haven't seen it before, has a whole list of legal considerations, tax considerations, customs and declaration, if you're going to be fulfilling on these services. So, as we look at these things, what I wanted, though, to do on the second half of my talk is change gears a bit with you. So on the one hand, what I wanted to start with was to share tools that you can be using to be researching the opportunity for wooden toys, and then I want you to be looking at different tools about fulfillment and taxation. But what I want to talk to you a bit now is about the culture of doing business with Americans. And this is something, as you say, with me being, I was 25 when I moved to the United Kingdom, and I've lived here for longer than I've not, if that makes sense. And I've learned a number of things about myself, about why I have difficulty doing business with you guys. And that's because culturally, inside, I'm still American, although when I go to America, they think I sound like the Queen. So what I wanted to do is to give you a heads up on some of the cultural differences. So the first thing is if you're going to be liaising with partners in the United States, or have any of you been on a trade mission or a trade show, or any of you considering going on a trade show with DIT? These are great opportunities for you to go out. We've worked with one client that she does handmade greeting cards, or clients that make jewelry, and they go on a mission to the United States where you can then meet and greet with suppliers at events like this. The first thing that you need to know about is that when you meet an American, you need to talk about something that an American knows about. And in this case, I hope you all know who this is. This is the Philadelphia Eagles, who have just won the Super Bowl, and I am from Philadelphia. Fly, Eagles, fly. You're going to talk to me about the Eagles, but the thing is, I only want to talk to you about the Eagles for about 1 minute. British people will then start to build the relationship, and they'll start to chitty-chat. I don't want to talk to you at all. I'm purely being polite. It is a conversation starter. And as an American, actually, what I'm interested in is I am very task focused. So I'm going to make polite conversation. Isn't that great about the Eagles? You go, yeah. I'm going to say, tell me about your wooden toys. Does that make sense? We're going to cut straight to the chase. So Americans, by the way, have a culture, and this is part of our Puritan work ethic. I'm sure you remember the Pilgrim Fathers coming across to the United States. We are very time-driven, task-focused nation, much more so than here in the United Kingdom. So for me, I want to get the business done, and then I will socialize with you after. If any of you are dealing with cultures, for instance, in Japan or China or the Far East, you may find it's the other way around, but not so with Americans. The next thing that you want to keep in mind is that as far as I'm concerned, time is a limited resource. I only have 24 hours in a day, and to me, time means money. For the British culture, we tend to think about the fact that time is everlasting, and time time flows, whereas I am focused on time. So what you will want to find, what you may be surprised, is that Americans will expect to meet with you for about 30 minutes at the most. This whole business of 1 hour meetings to me is a total waste of time. I don't need to meet with you for an hour. We can get the business done in 30 minutes. And finally, what you need to be thinking about is that if I've only got 30 minutes with you, I am going to judge you very quickly. So you need to be giving me signals that I understand that convey your quality. These, unfortunately, tend to be what you might perceive to be quite shallow, quite cosmetic issues. I will judge you on how you are dressed. I will judge you on how you shake my hand. I will judge you by the quality of your PowerPoint slides, and I hate to say it, I'm going to judge you on your teeth. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. I'll admit it. But these are signals. So Americans, because time is so precious, I need to look at you right away and decide, do I trust you or not? Quite a different way of working than the way we work here in the United Kingdom. So as we look at these things, what you also need to think about when you're dealing with me and Americans in general is that we are quite linear thinkers. So what that means, I need you to say, here is my toy. It costs $1.49. If you sell 100 of them at 40% margin, your profit's going to, does this make, it needs to be A, B, C, D, and go straight through the line. British people often will use what's called circular reasoning. You'll talk a little bit about the product, and then you'll let me know about the history of it and why it's wonderful, and then you'll talk about the price, and you'll let me know how you came up with the price point and what the competitor, I don't care. Cut to the chase. A, B, C, D. You've got 30 minutes, hurry up. So for you guys, you may need to shift your thinking dealing with Americans that I want this in a linear fashion, that A, I know exactly where the conversation's going, do not surprise me, and B, that you know what you're talking about. Now, as we think about this, also keep in mind that Americans in the main are interested in facts, and in particular, numbers. So you will need to have your numbers case, your business case, your evidence lined up. And again, for you guys to give me a discursive discussion about how you feel about your toys, I don't care. I don't care. So stick with the facts. If you can give me survey research, if you can give me pricing, if you can give me competitive intelligence. And you know what I really want in terms of facts, not theory? I want you to teach me something that I didn't know before. So Americans are very interested in this newness, in this research information. So if you can share with me something about the British market that I didn't know, I'm going to start to trust you all the more. So you're getting yourself organized. You know you've got 30 minutes. You're going to be dressed the way Americans expect you to be dressed. By the way, my husband is British, and he wears the weirdest clothes, and it drives me crazy. So he wears stuff that doesn't match, but that's what British people do. What we need, but Americans are going to think it's charming. What we now need to remember is that I know you know your history in terms of Americans, that we are a melting pot nation. So in my case, all 4 of my grandparents are immigrants from other countries. And most of my friends, we are a young nation. And in the United States, there are going to be a lot of people who do not speak English as their first language, or their parents didn't speak it. So as a result, the American language has changed from the British language, that we are more literal. We do not use humor the same way. You cannot talk around topics in the same way. You need to be much more direct. And I think you know this, but I think it's worth understanding that this is a result of the fact that we are a melting pot of many people speaking different languages. So our common language tends to be very plain speaking, very literal. And I know it's a stereotype to say that Americans don't particularly get irony. Americans probably will not appreciate your humor because they simply don't get it, because our language is much more literal than perhaps we might be used to here in the UK. Now, as we have that, being careful with that, what you might also want to keep in mind, thinking about Americans and the fact that I am essentially, my mom and dad were first generation American. What you might want to also be thinking about is Americans also still feel close to their historic roots. You guys know that. I hope you recognize it. It is the Mayflower, which is the ship that came over from England to America. I think you need to keep in mind that Americans are very aware of our relatively short history, so that if we think about the Pilgrims coming from England to the United States, these were probably your original entrepreneurs. They were risk takers looking to leave. Once we got to the east coast of the United States, people then jumped in those covered wagons and they drove them across to the west coast, the westward expansion, with the covered wagons. This entrepreneurial spirit, again, is part of our DNA. And I think you'll find Americans in the main are more entrepreneurial and more risk-taking than you. What that means for you, and I'm thinking of the discussion you and I just had, is Americans will often take a product to market before it's actually ready. Because they're confident it's going to work, they will take the risk, whereas we might be a little bit less risk-taking, we might be risk-adverse. You may find that Americans are much more risk-taking, and I think it is just part of our culture, of the way that we operate. Now, also, so if you're going to go out to a trade show to the United States, if you were to go to a trade show like this, let's pretend you were then to meet a partner or a supplier. What you must not now be surprised by is if you're going to meet with me, I can almost guarantee you I will not meet with you alone. I'm very likely to have an accountant with me, a lawyer with me, a business advisor with me, one of my directors with me. And that's because you might think that we're being democratic and we're talking about things together. It's not the case, in my opinion. The reason that I'm going to have all these other people involved with me is in case anything goes wrong, I want other people to blame. So if I were to do a deal with you and things were to go wrong, I can then also say to my tax accountant, my lawyer, my other directors, we grouply made this decision and this is how we're going to move forward. So A, if people bring lots of people to a meeting, that is not a buying signal. Does that make sense? Whereas here in the UK, if you turned up with me in a meeting and you had your accountant and your lawyer, I'm going to think, well, we're going to shake on this deal. This is not the case in the United States. B, job security in the United States is not as secure as jobs here in the United Kingdom. So as a result, people are much more careful about group decision making. So we are grouply liable for the decision that we make. Okay, speaking of which, okay, so we go to a meeting and you're my lawyer and we make this decision. On the other hand, although we made the group decision, you are going to find me saying, I made the decision. I am going to take all the credit for the win. I will then give some of the credit to my team. I may give some of the credit then to the company, but the main people I'm going to give the credit to are the American nation and the United States. So loyalty in America is quite different. We are very connected to the fact as an American nation, I'll give that credit. So what you need to think about for your behavior when exporting to the United States, you need to be much more explicit about taking the credit for what you've done. British understatement will lose you the deal. Does that make sense? So if I were to say, how's business? And you were to say, if you were to say, I'm doing okay, I'm going to look at you and go, don't want to do business with you. Why? Who do I want to do business with? I want to do business with successful people. So you're going to need to be more forthright. And this, I think, ties into the fact that I am time poor. Give me the signals up front of what you're doing. Understatement does not translate well. And finally, keep in mind that people take individual credit for the work they've done. And I will then be able to relate to you more closely if I know that your business is the best toy manufacturer in Grantham. I don't care, just whatever you're the best at, just tell me that's what you're the best at. Okay. By now, you will have also figured out that one of the national characteristics in the United States is that we are a nation of extroverts. And again, you will find, and that we could have a whole discussion about the extroverted nature of American citizens. But what you might want to be thinking about is how do you deal with an extrovert if you are naturally not an extrovert? And again, there's good guidelines there about letting me talk, letting me share my ideas, and then you keep coming back to the main points of what it is that you want to be telling me about. So you might want to have a little bit of a pattern on how to do that. Really quickly, I know I'm running out of time. Keep in mind that for me as an American, I believe in abundance. There is enough work for all of us to succeed. Americans genuinely are win-win. So probably they're not looking to screw you on the deal. There's enough work for all of us. I'm willing to share with you what I know, because there's enough work for all of us, so you should share back. Information can be freely given. We might also want to be thinking a little bit, and I'll go through this ever so quickly, is that Do you guys know what I mean if I do this? I pledge allegiance to the flag. Do you know that we celebrate, we salute the flag every morning at school? One nation under God. There are huge differences within the United States. And if any of you are looking for data in terms of, so I being from what's over there on the right called Middle America, I'm from Philadelphia on the East Coast. We are high energy multitasking nation. If you are dealing with people on the Pacific Coast, meaning California, probably going to be creative industries laid back, going to dress quite differently. If we're going to be looking at things, we might also, for example, take a look at spend on education in the United States. And what you can see here, colors that are blue invest heavily in the education in terms of state schools. Colors that are orange and blue do not spend as much money education in their schools. This might have a bearing on which markets you want to be going towards. We might also, here's a funny one, keep in mind, even in the United States, people use different words to mean the same thing. So although you tend to all think of us as being Americans, the differences are significant. So if you get a drink, one of those cold drinks out of a vending machine, I'm an East Coast red person, and I'm going to call that a soda. However, I come from the state of Pennsylvania, and that's that state right there, and you'll find there's a divide in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania, which are the Pocono Mountains, and on the other side of that line, they're going to call it pop. If you go down south, that drink you get from a vending machine, whether it's orange or lemonade or white or brown, it's a Coke. Everything's a Coke, irrespective of what it is. So you will still just be aware of the fact that there are significant regional differences within the United States. Enough already? Okay, so what I've done is tried to give you two different things today. I've tried to talk to you a little bit about the Google tools that are freely available and other research tools that will help you to research the market to try to find where the opportunity is. I've given you a set of tools that you can look at if you're looking for taxation issues or licensing issues or fulfillment resources. There's a wealth of information available through programs like Export is Great. And the third thing I've tried to talk to you a little bit about are some of the cultural issues that you may face when doing business with Americans. Okay, my name is, and by the way, here's the website that you can take a little look at if you're interested in the Department for International Trade. And that, my darlings, is everything that I wanted to talk to you about. So I hope that's okay.